Hey everybody, December the 8th, 2013. I would generally be doing this live on my Justin TV account, Politics 101, but I'm unable to get the deal to pop up. I'm I'm making a movie, or I'm putting a movie together right now, or a video together right now, and so while it's going through the processing stage, it looks like it's going to take about another 30 minutes. I don't think I'm going to be able to stream video. This computer, I think, is too eat up with viruses, and I don't know, where those come from or anything. But I went onto a website the other day, and uh, it had something to do with, it was like a YouTube download mechanism, and then when I got in there, it was it didn't even work, and next thing I know, I had all my windows were popping up and closing on me, and then I had security alert tell me I had viruses on my computer. Anyways, it 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 did some damage. So, anyways, it's one of those things where it's like an irritation thing, where if you close a window and you just so happen to not want to look at something for whatever reason, then it just wants to reopen in more and more and more and more windows, and then just overwhelm you with it. And then if you try to fight it, then it just opens up even harder just to screw with you. So, anyways, but I got a lot of people screwing with me lately. That's part of what I was gonna talk about tonight. Is yeah, the people are just trolls, and I'm talking about not just here and there, but everywhere. I mean, I was listening to Alex Jones a minute ago, and he was talking about how his mom was, giving him a hard time about talking about football, and football's a total weapon. I mean, it's straight up a total weapon, and it's just like what I was dealing with earlier this evening with my stepdad. And I go, I flipped on this movie, and then about 5 seconds into it, I realized it's going to be pure propaganda. And then there's the whole peer pressure aspect that the guys next to you is totally sold down the river on being a victim, of propaganda, and and then and then he goes, man, what do you think about that? We actually got people in this country, that that whole thing about having people in this country that want to hurt us and stuff from the Middle East and stuff. And I go, well, he he goes, do you believe all that or something like that? And I go, no, no. And he goes, well, I do. You know what I mean? It was just like that assertion of, like, hey, I'm in it. You know what I mean? Just that fighting mentality of wanting, and that's interesting, because that's actually something that I was reading about earlier. Not only the weaponization of not only the weaponization of sports, but this is an old. It was originally called the Protocols of Zion, and I was talking earlier about the report from Iron Mountain. There was a discussion about how they plan to use nationally oriented sporting events to to work as like a social, like a cat, socially catalyzing event to substitute for the effects on the population of war, because war actually causes people to become, there's a mechanism of it. There's peer pressure. There's the need. There's the feeling of obligation that you need to get behind it because of some justifiable. And then there's just the attack mentality that people have, and the glorification of the attack mentality, and just primitive thinking. And so that's all taken advantage of. And one of the things that they were talking about in the Protocols of Zion was that they would have such a huge percentage of the population uh, crippled by these propaganda mechanisms, that um, they would actually uh, be willing to just lord over their own families and stuff. You know what I mean? It was like it said somewhere, and I'll try to. Okay, I can't even find it right now. I was meaning to underline some stuff, but what they said was, oh, okay, in our program, 1/3 of the masses will keep the rest under observation from a sense of duty. On the principle of volunteer service to the state, it will be no disgrace to be a spy and informer, but a merit. How else are we to increase disorders? Protocol 17. Sedition mongering is nothing more than the yapping of a lapdog and elephant. In order to destroy the prestige of heroism for political crime, we shall send it for trial in the category of thieving, murder, and every kind of abominable, filthy crime. And that's another thing, is people don't feel any kind of sense of heroism because, oh, they've been labeled a terrorist. And and it's just like, you know, with the just like with the sporting events. I mean, it said we'll use sporting events. We use sporting events. Let's see if I can find it here. We have fooled, amused, and corrupted the youth of the masses by rearing them in principles and theories which are known to be false. Okay. Let me just. I'm sorry. Okay. What is the part played by the press state? It serves selfish ends. It is often vapid, unjust, mendacious, and the majority of the public have not the slightest idea what ends the press really serves. We shall saddle and bridle it with a tight curb. Not a single announcement will reach the public without our control. Uh, and this was actually created. This was created from what I recall reading, and so I don't remember absolutely everything. That I get an overview basically in my mind of what I've read, and then I forget the specific. But it was something back in the Napoleon era. It was released by an attorney who was supposedly, at first they didn't know who he was, and his last name was Joly, Joly, and they later found out that he was a member of a secret society. And at first they thought it was satire, and then later on he spent a year and a half, I believe, or maybe it was 15 years. Gosh, I wish I could remember. Anyways, he spent time in prison for they called it impertinence. So, anyways, I guess I just felt like their minds were being messed with or something. But either that or he was saying too much. Either ways, the later on, or you know, under that heavy of a tyranny, they're just not saying too much, but you know, I mean, he's living under tyranny and he's releasing information. Um, but either ways, um, then later on there was a Russian czar. The Russian government was feeling pressure from revolutionaries, so they republished the Protocols of Zion, and in it they wrote that this was they rewrote it, and then they substituted words to make it seem as if this was a revolution being played out by the Jewish community, and and then they distracted the revolutionaries into thinking that this was their, you know, propaganda, or the propaganda was real, and so they used that to distract from the original purpose. Hold on, actually, I'm gonna pause this recording so I can find this. All right, so I found it here. Says it will be. Uh, oh yeah, so the need for daily bread forces the masses to keep silent and be our humble servants, in order that the masses themselves may not guess what they are about. What they are about, we further distract them with amusements, games, pastimes, passions, people's palace. I don't know what that is. I guess they said no TV at that time, so maybe that was a stage or something. But either way, this is soon we shall begin through the press to propose competitions in art and sports of all kinds. Oh man. So, anyways, this really goes all the way back to the Roman era, because they had the gladiatory events. Everybody got decadent. Everybody got wrapped up in their sports, and I don't know what it is about sports that turns people into human weapons. But or weaponizes them. What they do, I mean, it does turn them into weapons. That it's I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just the delusional mind state. There's something in it that has to do with buying into stupidity, and then subconsciously, well, not even subconsciously, but um, I guess it would be subconscious, but almost not subconscious, but just vaguely conscious of of a cult mentality. So you realize it's a cult, you think it's cute, or it's like, yeah, and so it's passed off as being cute, and then everybody's got this thing like, oh, I love football, and the women just kind of like giggle and laugh like, oh, that's cute. When meanwhile in reality, it's a false. It's cute because it's known to be false. It's cute because everybody on some level knows that they're being screwed. And just like before, I've heard heard a guy a while back say, said his said his three favorite things in life was watching football and playing golf and drinking. I guess I don't remember, but anyways, there was a woman he was talking to, and as he said that his favorite thing in life was football, she just started giggling like it was just the cutest thing she'd ever heard. And that's the mind state. I mean, it's just it's a subliminal, man. It's there's something sick about it. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. But I mean, there's definitely a paradigm there. It's a freakish thing that's going on. I don't know how it works, and I really don't even care. The problem is that, oh, well, I'm not trying to glamorize these people. I'm not going to sit here and tell you they have 200 IQs or anything like that. It's beside the point. Besides, IQ in of itself is not even an accurate measurement of anything. You can take an IQ test and just focus really hard and do well, and then not hardly be paying any attention to it, and then, man, I've had IQ tests that have put me everywhere in the spectrum. And so, the point is it's, and it depends on the test. I mean, it's not an accurate measurement. Anyways, the point is the point is that I think it's just a huge cult. I don't know what it is. So, anyways, but if I had to guess, it's something about acting like a child as an adult and passing that off as being cute and knowing the whole time that you're screwing up. And anyways, I'm not quite sure what it is, but people really need to recognize that, yeah, it's a weapon. I mean, I have a problem even watching it anymore, and another problem is presents in my life is that that's all anybody's doing. And I was listening to Alex Jones earlier, halfway decent piece of programming there, and he said he went into his house, they're watching football, his family's watching football, and he's got a boycott going against football right now. And the first thing he says, I kind of like football. He doesn't really even mean that. See, what's going on with him is the same thing that goes on with me and everybody else. It's just pressure. You know what I mean? It's the fact that we're social beings. We need to be around other people, and they're going to sit around. They're going to watch football, and then you need that social interaction. So you're making excuses for it. Then you buy into your own excuses, and I'm sure that's what he's going through, because I've gone through the same thing. I get around other people. They're watching football, and and then the next thing I'm sitting there watching it with them, but then I'm trying to make excuses for it because I know the whole time I'm doing nothing but getting duped, and but really somebody somewhere else is sitting in a palace somewhere, and I'm being laughed at, and I'm chattel, You know what I mean? And I'm nothing but chattel to these people. And I don't appreciate it. I don't like being a duped, stupid idiot who watches people slam their heads together in dirt and snow all over their face. Like, that's my place in life, is to actually sit here and anyways, I don't know if that even, you know, makes any sense to anybody, but I mean, you're watching people lower their intelligence. You're watching people lose their common sense, banging their heads into each other. I sat there and watched a guy today tackle somebody on the ground. And I just said, are they going to put up with that? I mean, the guy just literally he was already down on his knees on the ground, and somebody else just ran up full speed and just slammed full body right into him. And it looked like it knocked the guy's neck back into his spinal column. I couldn't imagine the amount of neck damage that would cause. Anyways, you know, and then it's just, you want to be around other people. You kind of want, I lit the fire. I wanted to be in the living room. I wanted to turn, you know, and it's just sad because I know that it's just purely a weapon. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying I think it's a weapon. I know it's a weapon. I mean, this has been in writing for long periods of time. We pay for these stadiums with our tax money. That should never be happening. Look, if the stadiums were built out of the free market and there wasn't huge consolidation in the monetary system, which really just took, I mean, that's just so bizarre. It's almost hardly even worth talking about, but, you know, and then you got through the monetary system, so basically we have banks that loan the government money, counterfeit, and then we owe them interest. I mean, there's no telling how far it goes. That actually looks like what's happening. And they call it the Federal Reserve. It's not federal. It doesn't reserve anything. It's private. And Germany tried to keep about $40 billion in gold there. Found out the hard way that, oh, wait a second, no, we don't reserve anything. And anyways, the thing is they do dispense plenty, you know. So they don't exactly reserve anything, but they dispense quite a bit. They're not federal, but they are private, you know. Dispense quite a bit of counterfeit so we can all have inflation, and so that people can stay in business who don't make anything productive out of society. And they literally handed control over the monetary system over to banks in secret. I mean, they didn't do it in secret, but they gave them secret control over the monetary system. They gave them control of the monetary system. Secret control. And let's try to explain it to you like this. You know, the private dispensary, what it is it's gives each of the largest, I mean, on paper, gives each of the largest banks in town voting privileges on what happens in the monetary system. That's they call them monetary policy decisions. But see, what happens is they lower the interest rates. That creates a false sense of risk, so it lowers the risk artificially for these lending institutions, quote unquote lending institutions, which are not lending institutions; they're recipients of counterfeit money. And once they do that, then it's artificially lowered. See, because anyways, it's artificially lowered, and there's all kinds of money printed up as a result of that. All kinds of loans going out, you know, lower interest loans and all this. And then all of a sudden, oh, wait a second, we made a bunch of mistakes. These people, they didn't deserve the money. You know what I mean? They're, you know, the risk was there, and we didn't take it into consideration. You see what I'm saying? I mean, read In the Fed by Ron Paul. It's pretty clear what he says, but it's like, and then you say, well, that doesn't make any sense. I know. You know what I mean? It doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. It's just a bunch of damn confusing mess is what it is. And there's no point to any of it. And what the point of it is that you get raped. That's what the point is. So what we experience is inflation. I'll give you, my best example because I mean it's hard to even know what goes on up there. The most information I can give you right now is that in 2008, we bailed out the banks, quote unquote, bailed them out. Really, what happened was we got our asses handed to us, and uh, anyways, I mean, nobody bailed out anybody. Let me just put it to you like that. Uh, anyways, what happened was, sorry, I got people outside my window. It's difficult for me to hold a train of thought because I don't ever know. Anyways, the point is is that they 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 printed up $800 billion, and it was all this discussion. I mean, they made movies about it, and then they had this little old man who was nothing but a banker sitting at the end of a table saying, "If you don't give us the money, it'll be the end of the world." Boo, boo, and it was just like, well, wow, that really was emotionally, you know. And then he just kept saying it over and over again because it was just a stupid little gimmick, you know. And you know, the only thing that went is the planet. Okay, that's what's going away, and it's going away real hard right now. And the rule of law is deteriorated. There's no interest. They even put in paper in 1965 they wanted a high level of pollution. And I don't know what the incentive behind that is, but I mean, just imagine you got all kind of lawlessness going on. There's not going to be any interest in preserving the planet, okay? When criminals are running the show, they don't. Everything goes downhill, okay? There's wars, there's plague, there's famine, there's lack. You know what I mean? And then you have the fact that nothing can, nothing can, I heard Obama the other day say, "Trust it. Nothing's going to happen to the technology. Nothing's going to happen to the technology." I mean, maybe not for Africa, supposedly his home country, because they've never had technology in Africa. They've never developed a government to create it with. So, maybe that's where he's getting that mind state from. But, the point is that regardless of what his, African daddy told him, would or wouldn't work in government as far as technology is really irrelevant because that's in Africa. You know what I mean? That doesn't have anything to do with, his heritage is different. You know what I mean? It's more along the lines of nothing. Excuse me. The point of the story is that the point of the story is that what he needs to do is he needs to be taken through uh, what we do to Mexican citizens before we allow them to become American citizens. Take them through the stuff. We have the Constitution that allows for the free market, that allows, and then we have sound money that allows for the economy to continue on. Because once everybody's broke, there's not going to be any economy. You know what I mean? If the money's worth zero, then if you worked your whole life savings, it's all of a sudden worth absolutely nothing because it was nothing but a bunch of counterfeit notes that are going to be inflated to infinity. That kind of kills off, the majority of the population's wealth. You know what I mean? Because most people are just saving quote unquote money, which isn't anything but counterfeit. They're not saving anything. You know what I mean? And then once their spending power is diminished down to zero, where you can't even live in a house, there's not going to be any economy. There's not going to be supply and demand. There's not going to be an invisible hand. There's not going to be, as a result of that, an evolution of technology. It's not going to happen. Okay? So, I mean, I know that in his little, bubble of a fake world that he lives in, that it's convenient for him to live in that falsehood. because because he's a schmuck who, thinks honestly that, he can swindle, some money out of some other people, and that's the easy way to go. And it kind of reminds me of like a verse in the Bible that says, "Don't lay in wait for others' goods. Any bird in the tree can see that it's not going to work out for you." And let me explain to you, it's not going to work out for him. You know, he's going to have his ass handed to him, one way or another, and it's going to happen. When this entire world economy fails, and even the little bit of, nothing that he has left is going to be absolutely worth zero, because disease and famine is going to spread across the entire country. And all these bioweapons are going to get released. And then the next thing you know, if the bioweapons don't kill us off, it's going to be the nuclear weapons. And that would be a good end for these people, because then they get to die quickly without having to experience shame. But I'd like to see the bioweapons kill off about, 50% of the population over about 150 years, honestly, so these people can really, or no, more than 50%, 95%, so then they can actually sit around and watch it happen, as they get down to rocks, and like when Rome fell and they took the stones that were making the roadways and turned them into bridges and highways. Or no, they took the bridges and highways and turned them into stone huts. And I just want to see you get all the way back to there, man. And I want to see you look somebody in the eye like me and say, and it was worth it. Because now I'm lording over all these people. I don't have air conditioning. I don't have television. I don't have ice cubes in my water. But I got power over some other people, so that my lifespan's been considerably shortened. There's no evolution in the medical industry. There's no invisible hand, but I've got petty power. And look, whatever. I mean, petty is a definition for the type of person it would take to actually be in that position. So I'm not saying necessarily petty or not, but you got power. You know what I mean? I mean, you got power over other people. I mean, you've got them in a position of fear where they'll go and fetch, and that's worth it. You know what I mean? As long as you can have that, then shorten your lifespan. As long as you can have that, then don't have air conditioning. As long as you can have that, then don't have entertainment. Don't have television. Don't have safety. Don't have any of that. Just have rocks, and it'll be worth it. So, anyways, this is just one aspect of this. I mean, this country, and I see all this propaganda about, the NSA and terrorism and drug busting drugs, and oh damn it. Oh, I was watching TV the other night, and they walked into the NSA, and they're all on these lit up chairs in a dim room that starts, and they just stretch all the way over the tops of their heads, and the guy walks up and he goes, "Just whatever you do, just don't say anything about us being like Star Trek, because we're so cool, right?" I mean, he did say because we're so cool, right? He just said just don't, because they're so cool. You know what I mean? I mean, they sit around in the dark on these huge, gigantic chairs that have lights all over them, and we're all supposed to believe that it's kind of like futuristic androids who are running our life. And I guess if you can buy into that, then it makes it all worth it. To have somebody sitting around mouth breathing into the phone while you're sitting there trying to have a conversation with somebody. Somebody stalking you. You know what I mean? And this is the kind of people actually sit around and watch this, and then they go out and do it, and think that it's cute and stuff. Like, man, I'm looking at some shit right now. Excuse me, that's really driving me crazy. Some people, I have people that literally walk around stalking me. Uh, just anyways, I'm not even going to it. Just it's just everybody, man. It's everybody, and this whole notion of if it's a conspiracy, it's bad. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is, everything's being sold on television, you know. And then, oh, if they leak something, they're a really bad person. Leak? You mean like give information? It's called freedom of speech. Everything's out in the open. Nothing is classified. I mean, it's just, you have to understand there's such things called freedom of speech. Because here's what happens. Let me give you an example. Like in the Vietnam War, let's say we're at war with Vietnam and we've got to keep everything wrapped up and secret because it's for safety. Well, you know what happened in the Vietnam War? We lowered trade restrictions. David Rockefeller, president of Chase Manhattan Bank, literally publicly asked for us to lower trade restrictions with China and Russia during the Vietnam War. These are the countries that are supplying weapons to our enemies. We did. We lowered restrictions with the Chinese and the Russians for Chinese and the Russians for trade. Within a month, they made arrangements for several $billion in weapons to be sent to the country we're fighting against. And do you know what all wasn't allowed to be occurring during? We couldn't fire on the enemies until they fired on us. We couldn't bomb strategic targets. We couldn't pursue them into once they crossed certain barriers. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is the entire war is a setup, and that's why we have freedom of speech. And so it's not illegal to speak on anything. No information is harmful for you to have. None of it. That's a total falsehood lie. And it's created to keep you in chains, enslaved. And that's why we have the Constitution. So as cool and sexy as they can make it with all these chicken shit shows filmed in HD, doesn't change it at all. But that just makes people feel that much more justified to rub it in your face. I'm signed on to it. I don't care. It feels good. Nanny nanny boo boo. I'm gonna go stick my head in doo doo because that makes me, feel like I'm getting over on myself. I don't know. I understand the mentality. I mean, for all I know, this could be some kind of alien program. Because we're destroying ourselves, and anyways, the universe is a huge place. We could have a whole lot of other things to make enemies with besides even just the potential of an enemy outside of ourselves, other than ourselves. I mean, is yourself just have to be the best enemy that you can come up with? I mean, yeah. Does it have to be? But anyways, that's my problem. Is like I get to a point where, and I see other people just blow up with anger because it's just like, can you see where we're dealing with here? We can't put the connections together because there are none. And the more you struggle to try and understand it, the more upset you get because you can't, because there's nothing to understand. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just stupid ass people. There is such thing as called stupid. And, well, I mean, what can I say, I mean, if it's not stupidity, it's retardation. I mean, I can't sit here and, compensate for that for you. I mean, you're the one who's got to be that. I'm just trying to live my life without getting consumed by the mindless hordes of, flesh-eating retardation, Anyways, but other than that, I mean, we're living under a huge tyranny, and it's a known fact that we're never going to be able to arrest enough people to eradicate drugs from the face of the earth. You'd think that we were actually trying. The way that we pursue this, every year it gets more intense. And, man, I'm getting bad acid indigestion. Oh! So anyways, We got the war on drugs going on in a major way. More people in prison than any country in the world. And I don't know, I think we ought to be the symbol of tyranny, actually. I mean, as far as sending rescue caravans over to China to save their protesters from their government, I think that we ought to be asking for rescue caravans to China. I mean, Edward Snowden made it through pretty well, and then he got on over to the totalitarian country of Russia, and still seems to be doing fine. And the reason why is because just look at the bar. I mean, look at the bar. I mean, doesn't the amount of people you have enslaved at any given time count to some extent for how deep your tyranny is? But you got these people, man. They got their purd, P-U-R-D, purd, all wrapped up in oh, my purd, oh, America. And trust me, they'll make any excuse in the world to believe that America's free. Any excuse in the world. I mean, we've got SWAT teams deployed in the tens of thousands every year. Full metal jacket, kicking people's doors in and dragging them away for extended periods of time that keep getting extended longer every year. And and all the people can think about is how free they think they are. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's bizarre, man. It's bizarre. But the numbers don't lie, and it's not just the fact that, oh yeah, you know, statistically speaking. I mean, I go through the redundancies. It is redundancy. I shouldn't even talk about it because it really doesn't matter. You, as a human being, have a right to do what you want to do with yourself. It doesn't have to do anything with, you know, if it's statistically beneficial to the state to enslave people for what they do in the privacy of their own house, or if it isn't. It really doesn't matter, you know. As long as you're not making bombs that are going to blow up your entire city block or blow up your neighbors, you know, that really doesn't matter, you know. So if you have a meth lab that's explosive enough to blow up somebody's house next door, that should be considered legally endangering. What do they call that? Endangerment. Anyways, you know, reckless endangerment. You know, if you're doing something like that, then that's reckless endangerment. That means you go to prison for reckless endangerment, not meth or manufacturing methamphetamine. That's not criminal. You understand? In and of itself, that it's not. You know, what you put in yourself, it may be deadly. You know what I mean? Aspirin, you know, has a lower rate of, you know, overdose, a lower cutoff rate for overdose than cocaine does. And granted, it's deadly, and you probably shouldn't do it, but you know what? I wouldn't send somebody over to your house to put you in prison for it because it made me feel special or important. You know, like the Pharisees calling Jesus Christ a drunk because he drank wine, and then and then him calling them out like you're just a bunch of conceited retards, you know? And I mean, a bunch of conceited hypocrites. And that's it. I mean, it's nothing but a bunch of apes walking around with rocks, just ready to bash somebody's head in with it. That's humanity. That's life. Collapsing off the edge of a cliff. With technology has been evolving 200,000 times over in the last 20 years.